morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful Monday morning here. 71 degrees, clear skies. And clear skies means the sun gets to shine. And when the sun gets to shine, most of the world is happy. Good morning, Andy. Good morning, the Cherry Pie Show. Oh, good morning, gorgeous, she says. Good morning, Jennifer. Good morning, Barbara. Good morning, Marie. Good morning, Zach. How are you all today? We recorded a That's What She Said yesterday with Sue Boardman. Veronica had to work on some stuff for court today, so I filled in for her. We talked about Lydia Leister and Mary Thompson. Of course, the common thread between the two of them is that they both had their homes taken over as the Army headquarters for Meade's Army and Lee's Army. And pretty interesting conversation. I remember Beth was surprised at the mettle of these ladies. And I was surprised that she was surprised and that I wasn't surprised. And then we got to talking about that, and I said, I think we have the wrong idea about women in the past. We're told that they, were these helpless, shrinking violets that weren't allowed to do anything. But the more you dig into stuff, the more you find that in spite of all that, I'm not saying that didn't exist, but in spite of all of that, there are a lot of women that did a lot of remarkable things. We talk about Elizabeth Thorne, and I made the point that, I know a lot of guys that graves with a hangnail, let alone a baby growing inside them, like Elizabeth Thorne did. And I thought it was interesting because Beth was like, I don't think that I would be able to do these things. I wouldn't think of these things if I were these ladies. And we were talking about Lydia Leister making money off of the horse bones. Like, it's either sink or swim. When it comes to a survival situation, you either survive or you die. And if you're a survivor, you die. And if you're a mother and your kids are relying on you, you either survive or you all die. And so I think that we don't give the women credit, to be honest with you. And I think we've been misled about what they were capable of, what they were allowed to do, what they weren't allowed to do. Apparently there were, I think the number was 34 households in Gettysburg, according to the 1860 census, that were female-led households. A single woman. So I really enjoy it because it's a different, new to me, like coming up with that idea. She came up with the idea for the title and what it would be about, and then we did the rest. And that's Amy's voice that you hear at the beginning of That's What She Said, and at the end. But yeah, it was a good show, and any show with Sue is good. Any conversation with Sue is good. She's a funny lady, and I like her take. We also got in a Jenny Wade discussion in the middle of talking about these two gals, and Sue is from my school of thought on Jenny Wade is that just something is not right about this story, and people love it so much that they refuse to question any of the elements of it. And of course, that is a conspiracy of the Jenny Wade industrial complex. as we all know. Eisenhower warned us about it on his farewell address. The or the military-industrial complex warning, that one gets more attention, but he also mentioned the Jenny Wade industrial complex. It was more of a note on a post-it to the residents of Gettysburg, but it was during his farewell. Not a lot of people know that. I'm the first to tell you this because I just made it up. Morning, Matt. How are you? Morning, Francis. Down 4 pounds. Congratulations, Cherry Pie. I'm up 4 pounds. Alive off less than 6 hours of sleep, but coffee is amazing. Matt says, any idea when you're doing the show on Confederate wounds and deaths like you did for the Union wounded? I don't know when it is scheduled for, but it is, I believe, scheduled. I'm looking forward to that one as well. But right now, we are. So here's the deal. So what we record, basically what we've been recording since August, has been stuff slated for 2024. However, as many of our first lieutenants know already, that we've been live streaming the recording sessions of those shows, so they're seeing them early. And they're also participating in the Ask a Guide. So the the Officer's Wounds episodes are Ask a Guide episodes. And they will be, what's the word I'm looking for? That will include audience participation, God willing, and in the way of phone calls and voicemails. So if you're not already, go become a first lieutenant so that you don't miss anything and you get everything way ahead of everybody else. And you can participate in it. I'm hopeful that people will participate in the phone calls or voicemails, because I understand we record a lot of these. Like right now, we're going to record at 11 o'clock. And I'll stream these for the first lieutenants. We're out of fall preview season, and now we're in first lieutenants only getting the live streams. So today we're doing 2 episodes with Kevin Bryant. Both are Patreon episodes. One is about Frederick Douglass at Gettysburg, and the other is... Oh, what the hell's the other one? I can't remember. But we're doing 2 with Kevin today. So that should be fun. I like Kevin. I don't know if you remember Kevin. He's been on a couple of Ask a Guides, one or 2 with Lewis. Some of them haven't come out yet. But yeah, he's got a really good radio voice. And I bought a helium tank that is in the studio waiting for him, so that when he is about to speak, he takes a puff of helium, and then his voice will be higher, and then I will be the only one with a soothing radio voice. We can't have the host overshadowed. It just can't happen. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I think I really like his voice. I wish I had his voice. He has this really nice, yeah, like really, yeah, hey, I'm Kevin. I have this great voice. I don't care to use it for radio or anything. I have a great voice. What do you want from me? You know? I might get him to read some commercials or something. Women were absolute badasses. You know, I know, I get the whole thing with, that, but, like, honestly, I don't think they were. I think they would do what anyone would do. Man, beast, or child, or woman, or whatever. You have to survive. Like, they're human beings. They're not aliens. They're human beings. So they have the same survival instinct that men do. They have the same ability to be ingenious like men do. It's just, I think the circumstances that bring those traits out differ. I think men uh, uh, choose to use the ingenuity when it's not a stressful time, not a dire time, in order to improve peacetime. Whereas women, it can come out in a situation of high stress. On the whole, I mean, of course, that's not always true, but I think you can look at, well, just the world around you and see that. So yeah, they were badasses. They did badass things, but they were no more or less badasses than any men out there. People, it was a rough life. To us, all these people are badasses. But I think and this is what I said to Beth yesterday, I was like, we're not in that situation. We've never been in that situation. All we have known is comfort. Even in the most uncomfortable times in our lives, we've still been more comfortable than people in the middle class in the 1800s. I mean, look, I was dirt poor. I had an air conditioning unit in my window, maybe a couple. I was able to put a roof over my head. I was able to eat, even though it was unhealthy food, because for some reason the unhealthy food is cheap while the healthy food is expensive. But people get by. We get by. But I think, back then we just look at it and we're like, wow, how did they do that? That's amazing. But there are plenty of people alive today who, whether they're combat vets or just regular old vets, and tons of other walks of life that have seen it rough. They know, just how bad it could be and just how easy we have it, and they know that they can do it, and they know that if called to, you could too. Everybody could do badass things. Not everybody. Everybody's capable of it. Whether they choose to do it or not is another story, I guess. Mark Maritato, good to see you there. How you doing? Good morning. Hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well as well. Thank you. Jennifer said, I found the series North and South. Oh, yes. And I've been watching it every night before. I didn't realize how many stars were in it. Oh, it was a huge television event back in the day. I remember watching it. I guess my parents must have been out or something, because I remember watching it at my grandmother's house. Or at least when I see it, I'm reminded of my grandmother's house. So I'm assuming that we must have at least started it there and then continued watching it at home. Yeah, I remember that very well. It was a big, North and South. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Big deal back then. And the follow-up to it, which wasn't as good. But, they tried. Barbara says, yeah, but none of them were pampered rich. Who were the richest families in Gettysburg in 1863? Were you asking that? I don't know. That is a good question. And a lot of people, well, I'm sure a lot of you guys know this, but, probably most casual students of the Battle of Gettysburg don't. But Mrs. Thompson, who had Lee's headquarters, or is where Lee made his headquarters, she was a widow. Her husband was a real lowlife. And basically, she was left with nothing. And the guy who owned the house, who she was renting from, I guess, he was looking to put the house on the market. And a gentleman named Thaddeus Stevens stepped in. I think he knew the property owner. And he bought the house so that Mrs. Thompson didn't have to be kicked out and go find somewhere else to live. Now, I don't know if she paid him rent or if he let her live there rent-free, but I thought that was a pretty cool move on Thad's part, to do that for the old Mrs. T. And it was interesting too because while Lee was there, she said that he was a perfect gentleman, but she made a point for everybody to know that she did not cook for him, so as not to be mistreated by the locals after. People are something else, I'll tell you that. Cherry Pie says, that's the history I seek, the truth. Yes, and that's what we're trying to do at Addressing Gettysburg. We're not trying to retell the old stories with the veneer of past propagandists, if you will. But we are trying to get down to the nitty-gritty of it. I think it does not only the Civil War generation a disservice to not really get the best idea that we can without being there of what the truth was. And we'll never really truly get to that, but we can certainly try to get closer, and I think we will. We do them a disservice when we don't do that. And frankly, we do ourselves and future generations a disservice by buying into it and repeating it. So I'm always interested in these stories that kind of blow my mind and bust the myths. I got to do another myth busting episode with Tim Smith. That was one of our more popular ones. And I love that. I hate being fooled. And we all get fooled. But, the Gettysburg started over shoes and, yeah, I don't know, these other myths and everything like that about the battle or the people in the battle. They've all started for various reasons. But I kind of resent that people who called themselves historians and, added things to the historiography over the decades, continued those stories or didn't dig deeper. But I guess it took until, a more cynical generation came around. And I would argue that the crop of historians that we've had in the last at least 20 years have been a bit more cynical. And I don't say that in a bad way. I say it in a good way. Or maybe skeptical. Both. They've been cynical and skeptical. And it caused them to and Ivanov the other day. Leaving as we were being seated, and so we, said hi to her and everything. And she... Okay, yeah, now just have your nice little coffee chat, and there you go. Okay, all right, okay, all right, great, very much. I told her that her 17th Connecticut episode will be out in the next week or two, and we got to talking about it, and I said, your book and Stephen Evangelista's book, Our Story, the history of Battery B, 1st Rhode Island Light Artillery, I love them because each chapter is about a different fella, and it's from the ground level. It's their words, or when possible, but it's their story. And I was always more of a big picture guy. I'm interested in the general strategies and how you move these massive amounts of men and equipment, around a battlefield or miles around the region or whatever the case may be. But because of doing the show and because of everybody else's interest in the little guy's story, I'm starting to appreciate that more. And some of these descriptions are just truly horrific. And I just cannot imagine what that is like to be, just on the receiving end of, let's say, a volley or an artillery round or whatever the case may be, and not get hit, and then but other people do, and then you survive. And I don't know, it's just amazing to me. I don't know how. There was a story Andy Biggio was telling on the interview that we did with him. It just came out on Patreon, and he he was talking about how they were over in, I can't remember if it was Iraq or Afghanistan, but there was a suicide bomber, a couple of suicide bombers. Did I lose the audio there? I had a phone call come in. I don't know if that makes the audio go away. Anyway, I'm going to keep talking for a second here. Well, let me wait. Um, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right, I'm going to assume you can. Anyway, oh shit, I forgot what I was talking about. It doesn't matter. Good times were had by all. Andy says, careful, you know how Tim Smith feels about Jania Weed. Francis says, cherish master because I just lost my dog. Oh, cherish major, just lost a sad moment for me. Sorry to hear that, Francis. It is tough losing a pup. They very quickly become part of the family. In some cases, a person's only family, and they're very loyal and loving animals. And so I'm sorry to hear that. Andy needs to bleed more to upgrade. That's all right, Andy. That's all right. By the way, the other thing is, I don't know if it's going to be everything, but many of the like ringtones and things that I'm populating the new Patreon shop with are going to be free for the first lieutenants. And then I'm also thinking of adding Colonel, Brigadier General, and Major General. And those would be for sponsors only. They would be very limited, and the thing would be that you would get an ad, and I think it'd just be easier than having to make sure all the automated invoices are paid and then remind them to pay if they forget to pay or whatever. So I can't go chasing after people, so that would be an automatic payment for them, but I'm not sure yet if that's what I'm going to do. But that wouldn't have any perks like what you guys have. I think I'm going to reserve Major and Lieutenant Colonel for but I don't know. I can't think of any other ideas. Well, let's go this way. Cherry Pie Show. I'd like to think we would be able to survive in a situation such as that, but lately I'm not too sure of that. Technology has made us feel safe to the point if the grid fell, we'd all be crying. Oh, I totally agree, Cherry Pie. But I think those of us who are aware of that at least are mentally prepared for when it happens, and we'll be the ones that will be crowding towards the trains. We'll all be going the other way towards the mountains. So the smart will see that and go, hey, I wonder why that guy's going that way. Maybe I should go with him. But you're absolutely right. We're too soft now. And that's why it's inevitable that we're going to go through horrendous times very soon, because we're just far too soft. Andy says, if we were in those situations that they were in, man, we would be surprised by what we were able to do. That is, if we suddenly had to, we would. I agree. And that was my point to Bethany last night. About 15 or so years ago, I had met a colonel in the Army who was a student up at the Army War College, and he was studying to be a general. And we had several conversations over a course of a few months while he was in the area. And we were talking about war and all that. And I said, I'm trying to write a story or a novel. I think I was trying to write a novel at the time, which I never did. I started it, but I never finished it. About a civil war happening again, but in modern times. And it was funny. Now it's 15 years ago. He says, he goes, yeah. Who are the protagonists? I'm like, well, I'm not really sure. And or who are the belligerents is what he said. Who are the two sides? And I go, well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if it's left versus right. I'm not sure if it's government versus the people. And he goes, how about China? And I go, well, that wouldn't be a civil war. And he's like, well, what we're learning now, and this is again 15 years ago, is that the biggest military threat that we're going to have to face is China. And I said, oh, that's interesting. But I knew nothing of China or the politics or whatever. And anyway, bottom line is I never wrote the thing. But while we were talking about it, I said I'm trying to get into the mindset to try to imagine what it might feel like to be in a battle. But I really think that I would run and hide. Like I think I would be a coward. And he said I wouldn't be so sure. You're brave enough to face the public with that face. I think you can do anything. And I go, Colonel, that makes a lot of sense. I'll be Rambo with this face. No, he said, I wouldn't be so sure. We never know what we're capable of until we're in that situation. Now, he wasn't saying, Matt, I know you're capable of doing great things, but he was saying you just never know. And for some reason, that kind of, I don't know, it made me feel good. I can't describe the type of good feeling it gave me, but it did give me a good feeling. Hopeful that maybe I don't really know myself that well, and I might surprise even myself. We'll see. I think I'll be too old by the time it happens. Dr. James says, good morning, Matt. Good morning, Dr. James. Bill says, I went to Appomattox Courthouse over the weekend. My first time there, very cool place. Yeah, I've never been. I want to go. I have a friend there. He keeps trying to get me to go down so he can show me around, but who's got the time? You're running an empire, ladies and gentlemen. Who's got the time for vacations? Ghost of Sickles Lake says, roughing for Air Force is no internet, and hotels don't have room service or breakfast. So I hear. Cherry Pie thinks North and South was awesome. I think it was awesome in a corny daytime soap but played at night miniseries kind of way for the 80s. You gotta recognize it for what it is, but in spite of all that, it's entertaining. Doesn't help that, or it doesn't hurt that what's her face? What's her name? Leslie Ann Down. Is that it? She plays Patrick Swayze's love interest. Those eyes will cut right through you. Beautiful. Maji! Hey, Maji, how you doing? Good morning, Matt. Did you get my photo as the grieving mother of the Prentice brothers? One brother went to the Confederacy, one to the Union. I saw, I was skimming through very quickly. I saw that you had sent something, but I didn't have the time to actually click on it and go and investigate what you were sending me. I just saw that I had like 20 messages in my message box, and I was going through, and I go, okay, I'll answer this now, check that out later. So that's basically what I was doing, just to stop the notifications, because it keeps reminding me, and it's annoying. When did Living History yesterday? Greenwood. Okay. The Cherry Pie Show says, I know, Thaddeus Stevens owned that property. Lee would have been so mad. I wonder if he knew. Because, Jubal Early knew that Thad Stevens owned the Caledonia Iron Works and made sure to destroy it. So I wonder if Lee knew that he was living in a home that was owned by Thaddeus Stevens. Grant, would you ever call yourself a historian? No. I'm a history buff. Why do you ask, Grant? Would you? Jerry Pasho says, true historians are the ultimate truth seekers, archaeologists of the past. Yeah, the shoes. The always fine, but working a flight deck is very stressful and dangerous. Yeah, everyone's in the Navy, but yeah, you guys have the whole like boot camp running around and sit-ups and push-ups and ugh. Somebody yelling at you while you're doing it, being forced to do it every day, making your bed to a certain specification. Please. No, I couldn't do it. And I knew that at 17 years old. I did have a recruiter come to my house for the Army, though. And I was like, what's the program I can get into that fast tracks me to general? And he says, there's no such thing. And I said, goodbye. He's like, well, wait, what are your interests? I'm like, I'm a musician. I'm interested in filmmaking. Well, we've got a band. We've got a radio station. And I'm like, yeah, but I really can't say what I want to say, can I? And he's like, no, not really. I go, yeah, I don't think so. Sorry, the Army's not for me. And I go, is there a way to get in where I don't have to do boot camp? And he just laughed. And I didn't mean to waste his time, but I'm sure he felt like it was a waste of time. Jim Morris says, the 1860 census shows 18 or more people gave their occupation as cobbler or shoemaker. So it is reasonable or reasonable to assume a factory was there. We know, going the wrong way, assholes. We know there was not, but rebels didn't know that. They also didn't know what the 1860 census showed. I'm guessing. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But as Tim Smith pointed out on the cobbler thing, there were people that listed their occupation as cobbler, but that's 3-year-old information by now. And no cobbler was able to produce enough shoes to fill a factory. And they should have known. I don't know if they did know, but they should have known. A.P. Hill at least should have known that Early's division had gone through town already. So I think the shoe myth has been pretty much debunked, and I think the reason why people want to hold on to it is the reason why it would not perpetuate downtrodden, barefoot Confederate soldiers, barely crawling up here, starving and in rags. When if you really look at it, the opposite is true. They were better clad and better clad. Is that shod? Excuse me. They were better shod than the Union troops coming up here, because they were stealing shit all along the way, and that included footwear. And the Union troops were racing against time to get up here, wearing away that shoe leather. And look at the requisition reports after the battle, and look and see Meade had a supply of shoes that he had to get to in Frederick. That's another reason why people, I think, are unfair when they blame Meade for not nabbing Lee when he, quote, had the chance. I don't think he really had the chance. He was beat the hell up. Just because you win doesn't mean you're not bloodied and bruised. So anyway, but the shoe myth, yeah, I think has been pretty much blown out of the water. I think it started with Heath's report. Well, I don't think that. That's what I've been told. It started with Heath's report, and Heath was trying to maybe give cover to himself, because he had orders not to bring on a general engagement, and he brought on a general engagement. And then lost cause historians, or lost cause activists or proponents, or whatever you want to call them, after the ORs were made public, they saw that, they glommed onto that to perpetuate this myth of this army full of starving, skeletal, barefoot, poor dirt farmers invading the North just so that they can survive. I mean, they did need to come up here for supplies, but once they were getting around, they were in pretty decent shape. They were better fed. They were eating fruit, and other foods along the way. Eh. Again, we want to find the truth, not what is comfortable to our sensibilities. And the truth is always ugly. And it's not just ugly against the South. And I think a lot of Southern sympathizers out there hear someone correcting a lost cause myth, and they think that they're anti-South. Now, I'm not going to argue that a lot of historians are politically biased, and they're more political in the work that they do, in that they have an agenda. But anyone who loves their country, the United States of America, should be anti-South because they fought against it. Number one. Number two, again, correcting a myth is not an anti-anything thing. It's an anti-lie move, is what it is. And also, there's a lot of myths about the North that need to be corrected. The North were no angels. They did not. It is true when Southern sympathizers, bitch about how badly the Union soldiers treated the Southern population. And I mean, I don't know if I can really blame them, because their life was going all right, but then because someone couldn't come to the negotiating table and compromise, and they had to take their ball and go home, but before doing that, they had to fire a few cannon, or while doing that, they had to fire a few cannon. That kind of interrupted the lives of many hundreds of thousands of young men. And that would piss me off too. And I don't know if I would have been so kind to the populace if I were forced to go down there. Not forced to, but I volunteered to go down there because, some people just couldn't go along to get along. Wade says, blessed morning all, beautiful day in Gettysburg, I see. Oh, it's a gorgeous day here, Wade. Okay, Ghost says we could hear you. Sorry for your loss, Francis. Losing a fur baby is very heartbreaking. Yes, it is. Andy, I know. Andy says, I know that is one reason I want to upgrade. The other big one is that's what she said. I think that's what she said is on the second lieutenant level, isn't it? I'll have to check. I thought that was. I want a ringtone of Sam Elliott from the movie Gettysburg saying there's a devil to pay. Yeah, I'll add that. I have the whole soundboard that I'm going to put. Now, the movie ones will be free for everybody because I can't sell those. It's not my material. So those will be free. Rich Snyder says, I agree with the Colonel. Your training kicks in when involved with those situations. Yeah, the training, right. I don't have training. But he was saying even as a civilian with no training, you would be surprised what you can do. And I believe him because there's been things, nothing like, Mortal Kombat, but there's been things along the way since that conversation with him where I've surprised myself. And so just extrapolating that out to the extreme situation, I think I might surprise myself as well. Although at this age, I'm more aware of my mortality and that of others, and I want to avoid something that could take a life, including my own. But you never know what comes to your door. Andy says the Red Badge of Courage is an excellent example of that, Matt. If anyone wants to get into the mind of a Civil War soldier wrestling with the cowardice thing. Oh, yeah, good point. I forgot about that one. Good morning, David. Red Badge of Courage is what got me interested in the Civil War, David says. Babber says, James Reed as George was my favorite. George Hazard. He was good. They were all good. As corny and cheesy as some of the scenes were, they played it right. They did it how they were getting paid to play, cheesy and corny, because that's what it was. But it was, I don't know. There's something I like about it. Maji says, remember I told you about the fact that we have a lot of Civil War soldier diaries? Yes, because we have over 5,000 Civil War soldiers. The horses were pulling the cannon and died right in front of him. David says, I hated most of the books I had to read in school, but The Red Badge of Courage was one that I really liked. I don't feel the same way about most books. I'm sorry, I don't feel the same about most of those books anymore, by the way. Reading books is good for you. It is absolutely good for you. I wish I had the time or the ability to concentrate. Marge says, check out the picture if you get a chance. Otherwise, I'll send it to you. No, it's there still. I just have to get back and check it out when I have the time. David says, nobody likes that part of the military. Most people don't really like most parts of being in the military. It just straight up sucks 95% of the time. Yeah, I guess I kind of knew that before. Like, I didn't have to try it to know it. I guess. Because it just never looked fun in the movies. And those are the movies. They glamorize everything. From boot camp through flight school, says Ghost, and a school to the fleet 6 months, or a school. I don't know what that is. I went from 145 to 180 pounds of weight gain and muscle, and a year after my enlistment, I was 195, so I loved it. David says, at Ghost, I wish I had done a smart person's job and gotten job skills. I was 18 and didn't know any better, so I enlisted as an infantry. Yeah, if you're 18 and you're going to go in, you might as well do something, because you're not going to college, so you might as well do something that'll prepare you for the world. Oh, well, live and learn, right, Dave? Andy says, Tim Smith said it best when asked why the two armies collided at Gettysburg. They were two armies trying to kill each other, and they followed the roads. Told that to my mother, and she asked why battle was fought in Gettysburg. She was not amused. But it's true. It's basic, but it's true. Because usually the truth is pretty basic. Dogface says, as an old grunt, I agree with Sickles' leg. One time we had our one hot meal in the field. It was raining hard, knocking bugs out of the trees, landing in our food, which was now soup, but we ate it anyway. Probably was the best meal you ever had, right? Ghost says, David, I loved my time in the service from boot camp to the fleet. I didn't learn any job skills either, but I learned self-discipline, how to follow orders, and how to follow orders from dipshits and get along. Yeah, that's a good preparer for the real world, because most of your bosses are going to be dipshits who are unqualified for the position they're in. David says, Dogface has a great point. Okay. Bill says, I wonder how much a pair of Nikes cost in 1863 at the Gettysburg Mall. Good point, Bill. I wonder that myself. Okay, the personal conversations. Look at my mom in the face. She says she couldn't be doing a dangerous job. Want her boy to be safe. David the deal. Blah, 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 blah. Karen Lynn is okay. All right, good. I have to get going. I have an 11 o'clock show to do, like I said. But First Lieutenants, I'm sure a lot of you are at work and can't listen live, but it will be live streamed, and you can go and check it out when you get out of work later on. Actually, 2 shows will be live streamed today on the First Lieutenant level, and so on and so forth. So you guys have a good one. I'll talk to you later. And hit the like button, just like Ghost says. You guys have a good one too. Talk to you later.